Hello, my loves. Thank you for watching my podcast, Love Always. I am your presenter, Love, bringing you short teachings on self-development and growth mindset practices. We are on episode 3. And I just want to start off by saying a special thank you to everyone who has watched, shared, subscribed, liked, commented, supported, given love and kindness on this journey, on my mission. And I really do appreciate it. Thank you. I do have a gift in return, so please wait until the end of this episode to find out a special announcement. So before we start episode 3, I will be going into exploring grief, acceptance and change. I would like to just say a little prayer with my magical special stone, my Auntie Anne's, who I will be speaking about in this episode. So if you can just join me in this short prayer, that would be amazing. Thank you. Dear God, I pray that you give me the strength, the wisdom, the vulnerability, the words to open up, to cover someone who needs your love, your presence, to get them through this time. I pray that I reveal my strength, my duty, my serving in the best way that I can. Thank you. Amen. Okay, so before we get into the segments, I just want to quickly recap on last week's episode where we spoke about the positive affirmations about yourself. If you can just take a moment to pause before continuing watching and charge up your higher vibration of self-love by repeating all of the positive affirmations that you said about yourself. Also, if you have completed the task of the jar, can you continue doing that at the end of this episode? All of the practices that you have been doing, see how you have been getting on with it. If there are any changes or tweaks or adaptations that you need to make to suit you so that you're able to implement it into your daily routine with ease, then please do that at the end of this episode. Thank you. So we're going to move on to Share My Path, which is segment 1. And in this segment, I will be sharing the grief that I suffered with and along with how I formed Love Always. So in December 2022, my Auntie Anne passed away from cancer. She suffered the same cancer that my granddad was diagnosed with, and they both lived for the short amount of time. It was very sudden, it was very tragic, it was very unexpected. And I found that what I had to do was grieve all of the people who I lost in 2011, who I spoke about last episode, at the same time of me grieving for my Auntie Anne, because that is when I really experienced and went through the process of grief. I didn't shut it out and block it out. At first, I did find it difficult, and I will explain that. But my Auntie Anne meant the world to me. She was like my second mother. I was fortunate enough to have 2 loving mothers. My Auntie Anne cared for me in Dominica. We lived together for 2 years. But as for long as I can remember, I was always with her every weekend. And she made her home a loving home for me to come to. So I always felt like I was leaving one loving home and going to another. We had a bond and a connection like no other. We could understand each other without having to use words. Our birthdays being 6 days apart as well meant we were very similar in so many ways. And all I wanted to do was feel her pure love again. And I found it very difficult to lose the attachment that I had with her. So I kept it all together, and I didn't show that I wasn't able to manage the emotions. So I blocked out the overwhelming emotions that I was feeling, but I felt broken within, my heart shattered into pieces. And I knew that I had to try and find a way to build myself back together again. So once the burial took place, I unmasked. I couldn't hide it. How I felt inside with my soul, everything just felt dark inside. I felt lifeless, and I was going through each day not myself. I was crying every single moment. I felt like I cried a river. I was feeling all the different emotions of anger, frustration, confusion. I suffered with panic attacks, depression. And what I found myself doing is speaking to God out loud for the first time, asking him to remove the pain and remove the suffering that I was in. And that was the first time that I can recall speaking to God out loud. What then happened was the book that I shared last episode, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? I started reading the chapter on grief, and that is when I understood what I was going through. And I then also downloaded the audio of the book The Secret. So I read The Secret before, and it did amazing changes, made so much changes in my life. At that time, I believe I was really focused on my career. So when I reflect back, I can see where it did help there. But what I did recognize is I stopped all of the practices, all of the positive mindset. I became negative, and I became an overthinker, a worrier, always worrying. So what I did was I went back to listening to The Secret on the audio this time, to really commit to the practices and getting into shifting my mindset into a positive one. So with the counsellor as well, I then found that I was taking each day as it came, and I was finding that I was navigating through the process of grief in my way and in my time. I did isolate, I did shut off, but I went within myself to find me again. And I then navigated my way through a self-help book, which I will share next episode. And that self-help book helped me to dig deeper and find my inner child. And when I discovered that I had the trauma, I had to address it. I then found that I started loving myself a bit more. And with that, I was connecting to my younger self and all of the parts and qualities before the childhood trauma took place. All of the loving, kind, warm soul, the things that connected me to my younger self is what I started to feel inside. And that was then bringing on the presence that I felt of my Auntie Anne, because it was that same pure and warm love that I wanted to feel from her. I was then feeling it within. I realized that I had to love the parts of me that I didn't like, the parts of me that was, I'll say, with the pure love, it was removed by and replaced with toxic love due to all of the experiences and situations that I went through. So I had to accept that. I had to grieve for all of the loss and really embrace being committed to working towards the higher version of myself, the parts that I loved and the parts that I knew that other people loved me for as well. So letting go of the old me took on the journey of creating the new me. And I found that my Auntie Anne always ended her letters, her voicemails, her messages with saying love always. And it resonated with me that when you love always, it's loving yourself and others, and that projects outwards, and it just brings peace, happiness, joy, wealth, health, so much goodness. And I wanted to share that with the world. So we're going to move on to segment 2, which is deep-rooted work. And this is where I'm going to share with you some of the steps that I took to really build towards working towards my better version of myself. And one of the things that I did was to form a good habit, and I started to implement that change as part of my routine. So I noticed that my morning routine wasn't setting me up right for the day ahead, and that was my main focus of change. And I just did one action, which was giving myself 5 minutes in the morning when my being activated, having my time to really thank and appreciate life and the fact that I was given another opportunity to get through the day with ease, with goodness. And what I found was, before, I was dreading waking up to that monotonous routine of worry, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, depressed and not realizing it. That wasn't what I wanted to wake up to. but I found that I was getting excited to wake up each and every day because my life was changing and so many good things were coming to me. So what I would like you to do is just a quick soul check and connect with your soul by asking yourself, how are you? Identify if there are any fears, barriers, any resistance for you making that positive change for yourself and for your future. Think about if there's something that needs to be healed or addressed so that your growth isn't stopped. I would also like you to do the main teaching activity by committing to that one action for a week, and be kind to yourself. If you find that you need to reflect, if you need to build resilience, if you need to see where maybe you need to make some changes, that's fine. Just don't give up. Keep going. I have every faith in you. So moving on to segment 3, which is care package. Another change that I developed, so once I'd formed a good habit, I then replaced a unhealthy behavior or unhealthy habit with something else. And journaling was one of the things that I started to do, just with a notepad and pen at first. And then I upgraded to the book that I want to share with you, a journal, which is by Vex King, which is called The Greatest Self-Help Book, and it's a daily journal. There are lots of activities in there, mindful activities. It really helped me calm my mind. It helped me address if there were any patterns of unhealthy behavior or barriers that I needed to address in within my days. But it really made me appreciate every single day as well. So moving on to the last segment, which is segment 4, cleanse your soul. We are going to end with a short breathing exercise, and then I would like you to guide yourself into a self meditation for 1 minute. Before we get into that, I just want to ask anyone for your support in terms of sharing your testimony, things that worked for you, links, books, resources, references, so that we can build a network and community of being a savior for someone else and helping each other. Now find the time just to end with a short breathing exercise. If you want to play calming music, that is fine. If you are experienced that meditation, don't do it for 1 minute, do it for 10 minutes instead. And if you close your eyes or look down and drop your shoulders, relax your arms, and breathe in self-love on a count of 8, and breathe out self-sabotage on a count of 8, and repeat this 3 times, and then guide yourself into meditation by just focusing on your breathing, and breathe in and out self-love and self-sabotage for 1 minute. Now I will end here. Please continue watching at the end for the special announcement. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Love always. Thank you. See you next week. Bye for now. Yay. Thank you. Thank you.